So the push-up can be an amazing exercise because it's so accessible. You only need a floor space and that is about it. However, many people kind of come to a plateau with push-ups because of their technique and form. So I'm going to give you 2 quick little technique tweaks to make your push-ups so much more beneficial for building mass, for building power, for building strength and control. So these include the muscle elasticity, and we're going to talk a little bit about distancing from the axle, the joint you're moving from. So we're going to start with this kind of axle talk, right? So what I mean by axle is the joint you are moving around. So with any exercise, you're moving around a joint, okay? Bicep curl, you're moving around, the elbow joint, okay? Overhead press, it's the elbow joint and the shoulder joint, right? Quite simple. So with the push-up, we're moving around the elbow joint and the shoulder, okay? Because if you imagine, your body is straight, you're down, you're doing push-ups. So it's the tricep which is extending. And then you're also getting, of course, the anterior deltoid and the chest, but it's around the shoulder joint that we get that movement, okay? So these are the 2 joints we're moving from. Now, with any exercise, the further you move the weight away from the joint you're moving around, the axle, the kind of harder the exercise becomes, okay? So imagine a push-up, right? Your hands are in shoulder width and you're going down, okay? That is going to be easier than if you did the same push-up with your hands further out, okay? So, for example, that's not going to work if you're doing elbows in and then elbows out, because there's 2 different types of push-ups. So imagine elbows in here and then arms out, elbows in that way. It's going to be a lot tougher because the weight distribution on your hands is further away from the joints that we're using to do the push-up, okay? So this is a very key thing. Many people will generally stick to one kind of distance, whether it's shoulder distance or a little bit further than the shoulder distance. So very simply, what we want to do is we want to place our hands down. We want to go a little bit wider than shoulder width, okay? What we don't want to be doing is we don't want to be having our upper arm rubbing against our lats and kind of resting on the side of our body, because that makes the exercise a lot easier. Again, you're shifting the weight in closer to the joint we're moving around, and you're kind of getting a bit of assistance from the side of your body. I've done this myself. It's not a beneficial thing. So very simply, hands further out. We want the elbow not flaring out at 90 degrees, but more around 45 degrees. And you want to come down nice and slow, just like that. And so what we're doing here is, of course, our hands are further out. We're making sure that through the whole range of motion, our arms are in the same kind of distance from the joints we're moving around. So we're moving our hands away from this point. Now, we don't want to move our hands too far, because that then puts strain on the joints. It can compromise the shoulder joint, the rotator cuff. It can compromise the elbow. So we don't want to be doing that. We just want it in a comfortable range, not so close that you're getting assistance from the side of your body and stuff, but not too far that we're compromising the elbow joint and being a bit silly like that, okay? So we want it just like this. Now, another thing we can do is we can place our hands a little bit further down. So rather than having our hands in line with the shoulders, we can move our hands a little bit further down, and this really increases the pressure you're putting on your chest, because all of a sudden, you now think about your body, for example, as kind of like a seesaw, if you like, essentially a lever, right? Your body is here and your hands are coming further down. You've now got more weight on the front and less weight on the back, increasing the load that you're placing on your chest and on your triceps. So these are the 2 things about the axle and kind of moving your hands in place. The next thing we're going to talk about is elasticity, okay? So there's a thing called kind of muscle elasticity, right? Elastic kind of force, where if you spring, it's like a spring essentially, the muscles. So think about a squat jump, very easy to think about, right? So you jump up, you squat down, you jump back up again, okay? What you're doing is when you jump up the first time, you land, you jump again, coming down to land and then exploding again, you're going to produce most likely more power than the initial jump, because the coming down, bouncing and exploding, it allows your muscle to harness the elastic energy, and of course the tendons to harness this elastic energy, which can then be rebounded into the jump, okay? So this takes away from focusing on the muscle, and it focuses more or it gives more focus onto the elastic kind of potential of your connective tissues and stuff like that. So it's not optimal for kind of targeting the muscle. So when it comes to push-ups, when we're banging out push-ups really fast, we're bouncing at the bottom almost, and we're using elastic potential rather than isolating the muscle. Okay, so this is the one thing I want you to do. You're at the top of the push-up, hold for a second. Come down nice and slow and controlled, hold for a second. Push back up, hold. Come down, push back down, hold, and go back up. And by holding at the top and the bottom for a second or two, what you're doing is you're making sure that that elastic potential is not getting in the way of you targeting your chest and targeting the muscles you want to target with the push-ups, the muscles you want to work on. So by doing this, you're taking away the focus on this elastic potential and you're focusing more on the actual muscle. This is going to help you go into hypertrophy a lot better, which is going to help you build more muscle potentially. You're going to build more mass, obviously more power and more strength, because you're focusing on the muscle and not allowing that elastic potential to kind of take over. Okay, so these are the two kind of main tips. Hand placement a little bit further out, elbows 45 degrees. You can place your hands down a little bit more if you need that. Hold, come down nice and slow, hold, up. And then of course, if you need something a little bit more on the way up, so you've held on the bottom of the push-up on the way up, explode, right? So how you do a clapping push-up, do that. You don't necessarily need to clap. Your hands can just come off the floor. But again, this is going to increase the intensity. The whole thing increases the intensity and the specificity on the muscle, which is of course going to lead to greater growth and kind of strength development. So there we have it. The two kind of best kind of techniques to better your push-ups, mass-wise, strength-wise, power-wise, whatever you're training for. Obviously, it is specific to what kind of push-ups you do, like kind of the rep range, how fast you're going up, how slow you're coming down. But you can research that. We can get into that another time. For now, these tips are going to help you progress through that plateau with your push-ups. So let me know what you think. Let me know how you get along. And until next time, peace.